Three.
Hello, this is Dave Larson. I have the honor again of interviewing Dennis D. Morrison, and I've got a couple more questions. I'd like to go right into it. We
Great.
left off with talking about how you were wanting to get the Christian community together in the last days, and so I'd like to just go ahead and jump right in
Sure.
and ask you another question and let you elaborate on that. The Bible says to touch on the world lightly, so why should I be involved in politics and to vote?
That's a great question. That's a great question. God put us on this world to move the world in a positive way. We have like three enemies. We have the world and all it has for us, our flesh and our lusts and desires, and then we have the devil and all his wiles. And so all we have to do is conquer those. It seems easy, but no one's done it because everyone has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So since they've done that, what can we do? We have to change this world. We have to share the gospel. This is the Great Commission. They call it the Great Commission, is get out and share the gospel with everybody. Share our love. And if we don't do that, if we're not salt and light to the world, then it's really a godless and bitter world. And you can see it just as today. You look at Indiana. Indiana ran its government in biblical principles. So they're one of the few states that has a surplus of cash. And then you look at a state that doesn't run their government in a godly way, California, and they are billions and billions in the red. And so you ask yourself, why do we keep voting or not voting? Why do we keep having these liberal candidates in when the majority of the state is conservative? And that's because people, they don't take their time to vote, they don't take their citizenship seriously, and they probably believe they're not going to win anyway, so why vote? And this is what the Christians do. They don't get out and vote. And you look at the state that America is in right now, and it is horrible. It is just, we're a divided country, and there's these few factions that start the division, and everybody sits around going, oh man, look at that, but they don't do anything about it. And the last days, basically it's spiritual warfare is really what it boils down to, but these last days are extraordinarily serious business, and we as Christians have to be involved. In Matthew 24:12, it says that this is going to be that lawlessness will increase, and that the love of many will wax cold, and that there'll be an absence of moral and spiritual values. And you can see that today. And it will be, it's the lawlessness prevails. And so that's surprisingly America right now. And so we have rioting, we have lawless acts. The society is losing its compass, its moral values and spiritual values, as it says. And we've created an us versus them scenario. And we hate them, and that's not what it's all about. Notice it doesn't say that our love is lost, but our love wax cold. If our light shining bright, and that the heat of that is making that wax just flow, then it changes America. But when our light isn't so bright, that's where it's where we are right now. We're wanting to not
Do you think
love.
that Christians as a whole in America just are lukewarm and aren't active in things, and pretty much where America has gotten to is based on Christians failing to sort of live up to our beliefs and our principles? We've allowed prayer to go out of school. We don't have the Ten Commandments posted in courtroom buildings. They're fighting. There's a lot of work undermining the Christian principles,
Yes.
which this country was based on. And you really are trying to inspire and encourage the Christians as a collective group to step up and start voting and getting involved in politics.
Well, it's exactly right, Dave. I mean, it's a situation where I've talked about before, sensory overload. We're so involved in television, games, and every other which thing, and virtual reality, and all these things. But the serious business God put us here for, we're not doing. And this is about wakening the people up again to the problems that we have. And we have to love our brothers. We have to love our enemies. Do you love your enemy? You will if you're your father's child. I'll say it again. you will love your enemies if you're your Father's child. And this is what we have to do. You have to love of many. If we don't love them, then at the beginning of the Hatfields and McCoys all over again. That's where Satan would just love that. And so we have to get back and turn this hateful atmosphere around back to God. Remember where we've started. And it's always about love. We have to keep that love hot, burning hot. We have to keep God as our primary focus. And I mean, nothing should stop us from voting and being out there and turning this country around for Christ. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah,
so we have to see we want to see this change, and that has to change through the godly acts that we do. It starts with us, and if we connect the churches and start moving out in force, it will make all the difference in the world. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish by writing these books and bringing these people together. There's a very serious allegation in the Bible, and it's in 2 Timothy verses 3, verses 2 through 4, chapter 3, verses 2 through 4. And he's very graphic. He says, "At the last days, people will be lovers of themselves. They will be lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Have nothing to do with such people." So God's always looking for fruit. When he came to the fig tree and didn't find fruit, he cursed the tree. It's the same thing when you look at the master, and he had 3 servants, and he said to one, he says, "I'm going on a long trip. Here's 5 talents." And the second one, he says, "Here's 2 talents," and the servant, he says, "Here's 1." When he comes back, before they thought he was coming back, he asked for an accounting. "What did you do with it?" He says, the one that he gave 5, he says, "I doubled it, master." He says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And he says, "Enter into the joy of your master." What did he do with the second one? He doubled it. And he says, "Well done, enter into the joy of your master." The third one, he said, "What did you do with it?" He said, I was afraid of you, so I buried it." He says, "You should have put it in the bank, got interest, you lazy servant." He had him bound and cast into outer darkness where there's wailing and gnashing of teeth. If you look at that, that's always a reference to hell. So that's a very stark reminder that we have to be sober-minded and do what God's asking us to do.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I think it is a very wake-up call that you're expressing here. And as Christian collectively, as a group, we need to be serious about it, and we need to be active, and we need to love our enemies, our fellow Christians, and support them, and follow the teachings of Christ.
Amen.
That's what he taught us. So,
Thank you.
Thank you again, Dennis, for your time. I appreciate it. Okay.